I don't know you. I just met you. Can I get your number? Call me maybe. Hey, thanks for joining the Escape With Me Book Club's Patreon. Escape with me, Lizzie Sawyer.
And me, Sam Reiner.
Into our most recent book/movie. Join us as we take a book and its movie and we compare and contrast quite thoroughly. We're going to be covering both from beginning to end, so remember, there will be spoilers.
Today we're looking at a Christmas classic and a Christmas bomb. Skipping Christmas was published on November 6, 2001. It went on to reach the #1 spot on the New York Times bestseller list a month later. Sony Pictures bought the movie rights, and Chris Columbus, director of the first 2 Harry Potter films, wrote the screenplay. They went on to cast Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis as the leads, and the film was directed by Joe Roth, who had previously been chairman of 20th Century Fox and later Walt Disney Studios during the Disney Renaissance. And yet, it sits with a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, 22% on Metacritic, and a generous 5.4 on IMBd. What went wrong? Let's discuss. So the weird thing about this movie is it walks this fine line in between being extremely faithful to the book and chucking the book out the window.
We have dialogue from the book, word for word, exactly as the book would have wanted it, and then we have Botox, for no particular reason other than to ruin the character that's already been established.
Oh, he was already ruined at the ice rink.
Yes, okay, no, you're right. And then we have Ice Rink and Frozen Cat that is on the movie cover, to throw the character right out the window.
On the side note, the CGI for the cat's eyes. We've made Dobby by this point, but movies can't do cat eyes moving back and forth.
No, Mrs. Dobby's different.
Had a CGI cast that cared.
By no means.
Yeah. Basically everything they added is pretty terrible. And Chris Columbus should not write comedy.
Yep.
Because no. Take for instance, let's talk about Blair. Obviously the beginning of the book, they drop him off at the gate. And the beginning of the movie, they drop her off at security. This is 3 years after 2001. So I think every American understands, yep, that makes sense. But Blair is changed right from there because in the book, she's really self-assured and she's really excited about this, and her friend has told her all about the experience, so she's informed and she's ready to go, and her mom's upset and she's like, no mom, I can handle myself, I'll be fine, like I'll miss you guys, but hey, what's one Christmas? Whereas Blair in the movie, we don't know about the friend. We don't even really know if she's joining the Peace Corps.
She's just leaving. She'll be back for the following Christmas. She's sad. She doesn't seem like she really wants to leave.
Yeah, she's really upset that she's missing Christmas.
I'll be back.
And then we find out in the car that he's like, oh, joining the Peace Corps, where in the book, you know, you knew this for all the goodbyes and stuff. But she's really sad. And I don't know, it makes the phone call from the plane a little bit clingier.
Yeah.
Versus the book where it was like a nice, I miss you already kind of thing when she was like, I got this, I'm gonna go, I got this.
And in the book, with her being self-assured, it's more of a funny contrast for the end of the movie when this self-assured, intelligent woman who's gone out to join the Peace Corps because she knows what she's doing and she wants to help people, calls her parents and is like, psych, I'm coming back for Christmas, and by the way, I'm engaged to this man that I met a month ago, that I've only just met on this Peace Corps trip.
Yeah. She has 2 degrees, she has a master's. You don't really know what her master's is in. She doesn't really seem to have a career goal because she is joining the Peace Corps instead of being like, hey, I need to get a career so I can move on and whatever. But you get a feel that that's the kind of person Blair is. She got a little bit of a savior's complex, but her heart's in the right place. And then in the movie, it's, oh, I've known him for years. We went to Brown together. You guys have met him. And it kind of takes away from the funniness. I feel like they were trying to make it more respectable, like it wasn't an idiot falling in love super fast. But that was kind of the funny contrast in the movie because it was the self-assured, educated girl joining the Peace Corps. And then you find out last minute, what do you mean you met someone? What do you mean you're engaged? What do you mean you're coming home for Christmas? It was this insanity that happened that they're bombarded with all this information. And then when Nora slips out, of course we're still doing the party. It feels like this manic fever of, yeah, sure, totally, this is fine. When Luther's like, she doesn't even know the person. And you get to meet Enrique later in the book. And he's an awesome guy. I feel like they're actually gonna have a great life together once they figure out citizenship, I guess. Which is another thing. In the movie, he's a U.S. citizen. He just has family from Peru, and so he spends every Christmas in Peru.
Okay, movie.
Which really didn't make sense, where it's like, he's never had an American Christmas. I feel like he would have a pretty good idea what it is versus he's never left Peru. Well, I mean, he has. Wait a second. He was in England.
Yeah, he went to a prestigious college.
I don't believe England Christmases are different. They're obviously different, but I don't believe they're different enough to warrant, oh, he's never been in America. He's never seen Christmas trees. He's never seen Christmas lights. He's never had a Christmas party. That doesn't feel real. And now I want this addressed immediately. I've found a plot hole and I want it solved. But we're just going to assume and take a page out of the movie's book where he just goes, I don't spend Christmas anywhere. I just go back to Peru, which is really expensive. But okay, we're just going to go with that. But that does make the Christmas less special. But by the end of the movie, because at the end of the book, I totally buy that the whole neighborhood's like, yeah, we need to do this for Blair. Blair is so nice to people. She goes out of her way. She makes them feel like family. That seems like a person that would join the Peace Corps. But at the end of the movie, she really is just a smile and laugh person. Every shot of her is her either hugging somebody or laughing or smiling big and being all happy, which is fine. I mean, the actress does it great. She's gorgeous, so she looks happy, but it's not the same. It doesn't get the same thing across about Blair. So she just feels like this vapid person, which frankly, both of her parents are kind of vapid by the end of it. I don't know. The mom's okay. I go back and forth. The dad is definitely vapid in the movie. He is a caricature villain.
Oh, for sure. He is very self-centered. And
didn't you lose him around the Botox scene?
Well, I mean, I also lost him around the spraying the cat just a little bit. Not much, but yeah, I was going along. I was like, yep, okay, movie. All right, cool. Yep, all right. Okay, well, that's a little different, but yeah, I mean, we're still good. I'm still hanging in there. Why? Why with the Botox? Why? Why was that necessary? No. Why? Why would you do this? You just tossed this character right out the window. You're like, nah, he's a self-centered, vain human being.
I don't know. It's horrible. It actually is. You're totally right. It throws his character even more, but I kind of like it for its ridiculousness. It's part of the slapstick. I'm a really huge fan of slapstick. I have no excuse. I grew up on I Love Lucy, I guess, but it's ridiculous. Why are his eyebrows like that? Why can't he eat peaches? Why is he even trying to eat peaches? What is happening? Did the doctor not be like, you can't do XYZ? And then it doesn't really come up after that.
And his face goes back to normal because movie magic.
He has the wrinkles on his face at the party.
It's ridiculous.
Part of me does wonder if it was one of the last scenes they did and they actually made him get Botox.
No, I think they put glue on his face.
I really want to know about the eyebrows because there's no reason for them to suddenly be in that position and much smaller, other than to make him look even more ridiculous.
I got Botox. It messed my eyebrows out real good for no particular reason.
But Tim Allen's perfect for slapstick. He plays it up. He's a little bit of a caricature in his acting, so I'll buy it. I didn't hate the movie, because I actually really like this movie, but in the way that I love all bad movies. Like Cool as Ice, that movie with Vanilla Ice in it, and then...
Oh my god.
I love that movie.
That is something that I did not know about you, that I have just learned.
It's so bad.
That is such a bad movie. And he jumps a motorcycle in front of a horse and is like, whoa, why did the horse startle? It's like, you moron, you jumped a motorcycle in front of the horse.
It's so terrible. It's such a vain pretty boy project. And he walks away. Yep. She likes me.
No! You almost killed her!
Oh my goodness, that movie is... I love it. It's so bad.
See, I like bad movies, but I like bad movies like Deep Blue Sea, right? Deep Blue Sea is a horrible movie, but I think it's hilarious. I also like Deep Blue Sea 2. I need to watch Deep Blue Sea 3.
Oh, the best movie. I don't know if you've actually got to watch it, but the best movie, the absolutely best movie, Fateful Findings, is the best movie.
I can't remember if I watched that one or not.
I love it more than The Room.
The Room?
That should tell you something. I have this love for secondhand cringe. And so when the movie's bad, that's the kind of reaction I get. I like that reaction. I'm one of the people that can watch The Office and actually watch the episode of Scott's Tots. I will watch that one with everything else.
I can't watch The Office due to secondhand cringe. I hate secondhand cringe.
I don't know. It's my favorite sensation. Something just curls up inside me and dies. It's great. So I like bad movies.
Deep Blue Sea, I'm telling you, is the best Christmas movie. It's better than Die Hard because it's not actually a Christmas movie.
I only like really, really good movies or really bad movies. No in between.
Airplane versus Volcanoes.
So I'm going along with this movie. I'm like, okay, your slapstick, it's kind of bad. Jamie Lee Curtis and Tim Allen don't have any chemistry whatsoever. The only time I believe them is when they're arguing. That feels very real. So I don't know if they just don't like each other because I've never seen them in anything else together again. So I don't know if they just don't like each other or it just didn't click then or what was going on, but it's going along. It has its fault. I have my secondhand cringe fix. And then where it drops me and where I kind of wish I could cut off the movie and just be done with it is right at the spot where Spike, who looks like a brat.
He is a brat.
This is 2004. You don't need spiked hair. Why does all of his children have spiked hair?
Very 90s.
We're halfway through the next decade. We're done.
No, 90s. They'll stick around forever in all eternity.
It kind of makes it stays over. It's like, haha, remember those punks? Spike apparently has this radio and he constantly uses it to talk to the police, which I think is both impressive and adorable and extremely annoying. But he messages them, hey, we need more time. And everything at that point can be chucked out the door and we would be fine. We would be missing almost 40 minutes of the movie, but we would be fine.
Yes, it would shorten the movie down a bunch, but it would be so much better.
Because, like we said, anytime this movie ventures into original material, it sucks. And not in the fun way. Okay, I will give, there's this one part where he needs more time, so he's stalling. And so it's a police escort, and you expect him to go relatively quickly because police. So it's a really funny contrast. It's the subversion of expectations where the police car is driving really slow and everyone's passing him and they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, hey, there's ice on the road, so you don't want to be in a body bag. That one's fun. That's enough of a subversion to be kind of funny. But then they ask for more time and they really didn't need it.
No, they super didn't need more time.
And they would have been fine at that point, but they're like, oh, let's pretend to investigate something, and then, oh look, it's a robber, and we're gonna smush his face up against the window, and they're going to scream for a minute like they've never seen a dude's face before.
I will fully admit that I skipped that bit. I was watching it on YouTube, and I double tapped the side, and so it went away.
It was ridiculous. It was drawn out. It was dumb. It's enough of a jump scare where it was like, ugh, but it's not one to scream at, and they were both screaming, and I guess it was supposed to contrast the, oh, they're gonna have such a great time here. He's gonna love his first Christmas. And then it's screaming like everything's terrible is happening, but it's just not that traumatizing, guys. But they do kind of then ignore the fact that the burglar has to sit next to Blair and Enrique for the rest of the ride. I feel like they could have played that up. That would have been funny.
I'm sorry, my brain's going, burglar. That's where I am currently. What is that from?
Probably SpongeBob. I feel like the answer to way too many questions is that's probably from SpongeBob. But then also, the burglar plotline really needed to be dropped altogether. Why did they leave the window cracked that much? I don't actually know why they had it cracked at all. It was cold enough. He would have been fine. But they leave this huge crack in the window and it's snowing. And then Spike walks by and he's like, hey kid, you should get me out so I can eat. I haven't eaten in 7 days, which, granted, he's 12. Sure, dude. Yeah, sure. And then he somehow breaks him out of the cop car. We totally skip over how he does that.
You know, I didn't think the coat hanger trick would work on cop cars, but I could be wrong.
He didn't have a coat hanger.
But I mean, it clearly wasn't a real cop car, and they didn't show it, so you don't know he doesn't have a coat hanger.
Fair.
I mean, there's not a partition between the front seat and the back seat. It's just open.
Which, granted, it was 2004, and I've never been in a cop car in my life, so I don't know. I am not a reliable source. is.
There's definitely a grate in between the two.
There is now, for sure.
I will not explain why I know that.
They actually miss a lot of the party points in the book that makes it feel Christmassy and stuff, but instead they do I honestly thought they dropped the burglar subplot for the longest time. Because no, we have to instead give a very heavy-handed moral to Luther that he's selfish and a terrible person for wanting to skip Christmas.
By the way, Luther, you're selfish and a terrible person for wanting to save money and not do Christmas because a family member that is very important to Christmas to you at this time of year is not in the house. So, but you're selfish for not wanting to spend things on stuff that will feel wrong without that person in the household. How dare you?
Yeah, and it was supposed to be all like, after all our neighbors have done for us, and which granted, Norris has every right to call him out, but the difference between Luther in the book and Luther in the movie, kind of cheer for Luther in the book, because
yeah, get it, man. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, he's not doing anything wrong, and the book does actually make some lighthearted points about how people do things around Christmas for the tradition of it
that are silly and it's and
it's not anything to do with the actual meaning of Christmas, and you put yourself through all this chaos and you trouble yourself so much for what? For other people to be like, hey, good, you're doing the Christmas thing. And it has a really good play with that, but it also points out the finer things of it too, of having family together and celebrating with people that you care about and doing nice things for other. Because at the end of the book, Luther sneaks out of the party and gives the Christmas tickets to his rival because his wife has cancer and they're worried that this will be our last Christmas. So that would be something really, really special for them.
Yeah. He's like, I can't use these anyway. And his wife doesn't have to prompt him. He's just like, we can't use these because Blair's here. Obviously, we can't use them because Blair's here because that would ruin Christmas for her. And they're having such a hard time. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to give them tickets. I'm going to convince them to go on this cruise because that's really what they need right now because she's in such bad shape and they just need this in their lives at the moment.
They need a last special Christmas. And if it's not her last one, that's great. But if it is, that would mean so much to Walt.
He has to be jilted and convinced.
Twice.
And even when he's convinced, he goes over there and I have this ham. And they're like, we don't really do ham. And he's like, well, it's just like gelatin and fat. And they're like, oh, yeah, thanks for the ham. And he leaves and he comes back because he has to convince himself. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, there's the guilt. Let me actually go over there and give him the tickets.
Yeah, like he has to be morally cleansed or something. He needs to repent of his ways. Because even after the second chiding, he's like, we can still go. They can just chill at the house by themselves. I'm like, no. What caring father sees his child getting engaged and is like, no, I want to go on a cruise?
Yeah, I'm going to go on the cruise anyway. Good for you, man.
You put in all this effort and you're immediately like, yep, we need to have Christmas for Blair, but you expect me to believe you're going to do all of that effort for a Christmas Eve party and then you're going to leave her on Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
BS. I don't believe that. The same guy who put up Frosty and almost endangered his life just so there could be Frosty on the roof is the same guy who's like, we could still go. We don't have to be here. We can ignore everything the neighbors have done for us.
For sure.
Bruh.
Definitely ignore everything the neighbors have done for us.
Which they are psychotic in the movie.
The neighbors are nuts.
At least in the book, Vic is a Kevin. If anyone's uninitiated, the male version of a Karen.
I thought that was a Richard.
It changes. I've also heard Ken, but he basically is involved in all of this stuff and he works at the school, but that gives him so much time where he coordinates everything in the neighborhood, so he cares way too much about everything and takes everything way too personally.
Yeah, he's like the sole member of the HOA, but is a good HOA member. He cares about his community, which still plays through because even though he's like, guys, put up your Frosty, it feels more like even though this was my idea and it's a thing, but it's important to the whole neighborhood. And he's like, guys, you're ruining this for the neighborhood. Can we please just put your Frosty up on the roof?
Yeah, because there's that whole competition. It was his idea in the first place to have the Frosties. And when they did it, they got on the front of the newspaper and the Parks and Rec department started doing contests for streets. It became this really big deal. deal.
And it brought the whole community together. And so in the book, it feels very, guys, let's just put up the Frosty. The whole rest of the neighborhood, we get it. We don't want to do Christmas, but can we please not ruin this for the rest of the neighborhood?
And so it feels realistic.
And they're like, no, we're not doing Christmas. We're not going to do the Frosty. But I still think that carolers one time, I get it, get your revenge. But after that, maybe just leave them alone, please. You got your revenge. You had carolers in the entire neighborhood sing in front of their house for hours. Maybe just leave them alone now.
It feels like something in the workplace where someone gets bent out of shape and then it becomes an us and them and everybody enjoying having a shared enemy, and it just goes too far. And that's basically what happens. And so when they're able to turn around and be like, you know what, this went too far, we're gonna help you for Blair.
Which is way better in the book, because in the movie it's like, y'all are selfish. Y'all are keeping Frosty in the basement. How dare you, you selfish butts.
We are going to stand outside and demand that your wife bring out Frosty. We will be back.
We will grab onto her car window and chase her down the street in her car to get her to bring Frosty up so we can put it up on your roof. We will harass your wife.
It was harassment.
Leave Nora alone. She's a sweet little lady.
It's one thing to do like crank calls with the free Frosty and the sign. Like, those are kids. They're punks. And even the book, it lightheartedly is like, ugh, that street gang. And they're not a street gang. They're perfectly fine children. They're just being punks. But he's like, those street gangs. And Nora's like, they're not a street gang. And then they start doing stuff and they're like, that street game. It's that us and them situation that's brewing up where Nora and Luther feel like, they're coming against us, where the neighbors feel like, they're just being jerks. It feels real, and at the end, everybody's an idiot, but nobody's an idiot at the same time.
And even in the book with the donation things like the calendar and the tree and the fireman fruitcake stuff, right? Even though he's like, I don't want to do these because we're not doing Christmas this year, he still's like, but I'll donate the same amount of money for your event later in the year that I don't normally donate to. And they're always like,
Which, that was the one thing in the book, every time they were disappointed, it was like, you're still getting $100.
I mean, you're just not getting it now, you're getting it later. And he's most likely good for it because he's donated to your Christmas thing with this amount of money every year. I can't see him not giving you the money for the thing later. And that's more money for the thing later that you probably don't get much money for in comparison to what you normally get for Christmas, because for the Christmas thing, it's like tradition and you have to do that, you know?
Yeah.
You're getting money for this other thing. You could then add on to the Boy Scout camping trip. If you only get to do archery or horseback riding, now you could do archery and horseback riding instead.
Yeah, it's like how soup kitchens turn away people on Thanksgiving, but the rest of the year they're like, we need people. It's kind of like that. It's a charitable time. Everyone does donations. Food banks get their most donations around the winter time. It's a very charitable time, which one thing I don't understand, which feels a little bit like another plot hole. Why does donating to the police, the Boy Scouts, and the first responders, why is that not considered part of their charitable givings?
Because that was one of Nora's conditions. I don't know. It may have been charitable giving specifically for her group stuff that she does with the girls.
It was $300 to the children's hospital and $300 to the church.
Yeah.
Or some amount that ended up to being $600. I don't quite remember.
Why can't we just add this into the charitable giving? Yeah, I don't know.
Why does this not part of the charitable givings? It's like, oh, everyone wants a handout. It's like, but...
Yeah, but it's just 3 people. It's just the Boy Scouts, the fire department, and police. That's it.
What is different? Dude, what if you donated $100 right then? I don't even want your stuff, but here's the donation.
Yeah, I don't need the thing. Just take the donation money and I've at it. No clue.
I didn't understand those plot points, but I feel like there were more of those in the books. But like you said, there's that point where Luther's like, hey, we're not doing Christmas stuff, but hey, you know that event you had in spring/summer? Come back then. I'll give you $100. And it adds to the Luthers. He's a charitable person. He gives to stuff.
He's a good person. He just doesn't want to do Christmas this year. He doesn't want to have to deal with fighting with Nora over the tree and fighting with Nora over the lights and buying gifts that neither of them are really like and neither will actually use, that are really pointless. He doesn't want to do the stuff that he doesn't have to do that makes them both relatively miserable for tradition.
Yeah, and he just has a very staunch way of doing it. It's like, okay, dude, he just has this strict boycott because he's so scared. Oh, if we do anything Christmas related, we have to do it all. But in the movie, he's just a jerk.
Yeah, in the movie, he's just a jerk.
Carolers come to his house. Nora's very obviously like, aw, carolers. But the next day, he's like, I'm going to spray down the yard. So it's this massive ice rink so everyone hurts themselves.
And that poor mailman, the poor mailman that had nothing to do with anything. The mailman falls down and he's like, yes, good. All the carols will fall down as well. And poor Nora gets wrapped up in that too because she comes out the front door and she goes sliding across the yard. I'm like, Luther, look what you've done to your wife.
Yeah, she's like, oh my goodness, the poor carolers. And at the end, she's like yelling at him at the bar and she's like, they could have broken an arm, they could have broken a neck. And I, as the business major, I'm like, you could have gotten sued.
Hey, Mr. Accountant, you could have gotten sued.
If any of them got hurt on your property, especially when you purposely made an ice rink to harm people, they could have sued you. And that would be way more than the $6,000 you spent last Christmas.
$6,100.
And $30. I don't know why I left off the $30. If you're gonna count it out, I would be like every penny. Which I did notice that they changed it from the two names, I don't remember what the two names were in the book, to just Wiley and Associates.
That's not something I noticed.
I don't know why they did that. It was very brief. He walked into the door and you could see the name and I was like, huh, I wonder why they changed that. They never have the boss come in and talk to him, so it's not like it meant anything. I don't know, maybe it was less letters.
What was with Marty? Did I miss a joke there?
I didn't like what they did with Marty in the movie.
Just in general, what joke did I miss with Marty?
The joke is just that he knows everybody, but no one seems to know him.
Okay, I got that. But is there like some underlying joke there that I completely clued out on? Because it seemed like, yeah, this is a funny thing because of some specific reason that I feel like I should know that I feel like I don't.
No, it's that basic.
Okay.
He knows everyone, nobody knows him, and so it's funny because it's supposed to symbolize, oh, if you've ever been out in public with somebody and they're like, hey, it's you, how is your kids' house, Blair? This is the street you live off of, and you're sitting there like, who is this person?
Okay.
That's all it's supposed to represent. But in the movie, they actually tell who he is, and he's this dude that sells umbrellas for a living, so he knows everybody because of that. And then they do that thing at the end where it's like, oh, he drives off in a bug, and then it's Santa's sleigh pulling the bug. So he's actually Santa. And I'm like, that's dumb. I hate it. Because I liked it better when it was literally like, who is this person? I don't know, but he's a nice dude, and he gets along with Enrique. Apparently, he lived in Peru.
I like the book version where he's like, who is that? And Nora's like, Marty, you know, Marty. And then kind of wanders off. And I enjoyed in the movie where he comes in and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I don't know. And he says hi to the pastor, and the pastor's like, what? And Luther's like, who is that? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know him.
Yeah, no one knows him.
And then when he finally says his name, and they're like, we have a name. It's Marty. And I was like, it's Marty. You know, Marty.
Marty.
You know?
Yeah, clearly.
Everybody knows Marty.
And then he can play guitar, and he becomes like the center of the thing, and it's like everyone is like, who is this man?
It's Marty.
And he's just having this great time because you can tell he was going to be lonely and he didn't have anywhere to be. And then they were like, hey, do you want to come to this party out of desperation? And Nora's like, I don't know who this person is, but he has a fun time. It's very lighthearted, and all of these things are in good faith, and they take all the good faith stuff and destroy it, and they keep adding stuff.
Yeah, you could tell they were going to get rid of all the good faith stuff when they froze the cat.
Oh, I can't get over the CGI. He keeps stepping on him. It's ridiculous how many times. At the first time, it's like, okay, that sucks. He should have looked where he was going, whatever. But it keeps happening, and it's like, ha ha ha. In the book, Walter has a cat, and they mention it, and at that point where it's like, oh, what are we going to do about the cat? And Luther's like, I hate cats with a burning passion. I'll take care of the cat. And then there's a little blurb, even though he knew Nora would be the one taking care of the cat. That was very funny and very realistic. But in the movie, he's just terrible to him the entire time, and I don't understand what the joke is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, haha, animal abuse. Isn't it hilarious?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Uh-huh.
No, that is where slapstick can draw the line. You don't hit children, you don't hit animals. They're innocent in this. And he awkwardly holds the cat and he's like, hey, look, it's fine. And Walt's like, hey, maybe you should stop stepping on his tail. It's like, maybe you should stop letting him outside. If somebody was actively abusing my cat, I wouldn't be letting him outside. I would be so pissed. But he would be an indoor cat for a little bit. Everything to do with the cat was just wrong. And the fact that it was on the movie poster, it just shows that the marketing department thought that was the height of hilarity, and it's just not. Why did you freeze the cat?
They do that in Christmas Vacation. In Christmas Vacation, the deaf great aunt comes and she's wrapped her cat in a box, and they release the cat and they're like, oh no, cat. And there's nothing actively mean with the cat until the cat bites the electrical cord of the Christmas tree and then dies.
Jeez!
She gets electrocuted and dies. And they have to get rid of the chair, and it's this cat outline of an electrocuted cat on the back of the chair.
Merry Christmas!
I actually like this movie, believe it or not, the Christmas Vacation. It's one that my family watches every year. I think I talked about it a little bit in Christmas by the Sea. But yeah, there's cat abuse in that as well.
What is with that, guys? We needed to talk all of Hollywood film production because I know you're listening to our podcast and you really care about my opinion.
Oh, definitely.
Stop it. It's not funny.
Cease and desist.
We'll pull a Disney. I thought they were going to drop the burglar plotline when they went so long without it being a thing. And honestly, I watched the movie yesterday, and all I remember at the end is, I don't even remember why they went upstairs, but for some reason they went upstairs and it was like, the burglar. Spike's like, why did you lie to me? And it's like, dude, he's a criminal, and I know you're 12, but that was really naive of you. And then they catch the burglar, and I don't know what the point of that was. Merry Christmas!
We caught the burglar. The episode with the string.
I love this movie because it's bad, so it's not surprising that I think it's bad.
Do you think it's bad?
I think it's pretty bad. But like I said, everything right before Spike is like, we need more time, could be cut.
Yeah.
Blair doesn't do anything interesting. Marty kind of gets soiled because they're like, oh, we figured out who you are. And oh, that was where it was, I told you you needed an umbrella. And he like hits him with the umbrella or something. I don't know. I guess there was a lesson in that, and they had to wedge in a Santa Claus somehow for the kiddos, you know. Also, Marty went from being this lumberjack ginger dude with a beard to this frail old man who makes a living off of selling umbrellas. Marty got infinitely sadder.
Yeah, he was a good character, and then it was kind of like, what happened, Marty? You good?
There was also the thing where he brought the ham, and it was the ham that Nora wasn't able to get at the store.
And then they didn't make the ham.
No, the weird thing is there was a ham on the table, and when they were by the buffet, Nora was like, oh, it's the ham that Blair loves, to Enrique, and was like saying like, you should try some.
Yeah.
But then there was magically another ham for Luther to give to Walt.
It must have come from another family's house because a lot of other families brought food, so it must have been from somewhere else.
Yeah, but that ruined the whole thing of, hey, Marty brought the ham.
Yeah, it would have been better if they kept out the, here, take this ham that we don't need.
It was such a waste. They were already eating food. He didn't need to come over and be like, here's an obligation to cook something. What? And then he said he's allergic to pork, and his answer, like you said, was it's basically gelatin.
Well, it's not really pork.
It didn't look like gelatin. But overall, I'll probably watch it next year. I bought it on Amazon.
I probably won't. This is my first time actually seeing this movie. And I won't be adverse to watching it again. If my family's like, let's watch this Christmas movie, I'm not going to, be against it, but I'm not actively going to seek it out.
I mean, now that I own it, I might as well.
I just rented it for a couple of days.
Oh, it was on sale on Amazon. They were like, here, please take this. That's also how I got Psycho. Psycho was on sale around Halloween for $0.
Gnarly.
It's a very good movie. Once again, either really bad movies or really good movies. But overall, I can understand the, let's say, critical reception of this movie. No bueno.
No bueno.
They try. Slapstick is the right genre for the book. I do think that would be accurate, but the way they went about it wasn't very good. And the comedy of the book is in the realism of kind of like when you go to see a stand-up comedian and they talk about everyday life and it's funny because it's true. That's where the humor of the book lies. And so when they try to take it and turn it into careless slapstick like they do, where, oh, it's funny because carolers are falling down on ice and Nora slipped, and it's funny because he can't eat peaches, and it's funny because haha, she's in a skimpy sexy bikini, and her pastor sees her.
Poor Nora.
Which that scene went on way too long, and it was kind of creepy.
Yeah, it did. It was not good cringy. It was very bad cringy. What are we doing here?
It would have been fine, because in the book, Nora had it on, and it broke, and it falls out of her pants leg, but the pastor doesn't know about it. And so it would have been fine where it would have been like, Nora? But then it went on for too long, and then it like specifically made a point of the pastor looking at her. It was weird. And I liked in the book where he was like, you're skipping Christmas? And she explained it, and it's like, no, we're skipping the commercialization. And he looks over to his pack of presents, and he's like, yeah, I guess that we do get around to some stuff. Even the pastor's like, okay, I get it. But we don't get that.
The pastor's supposed to be like, well, yeah, as long as we're still celebrating what Christmas is actually about, which is the birth of Jesus Christ.
And so even he's like, okay, that's fair. There's so many things. And there were so many good people on this movie, but Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis have no chemistry. The one scene where Nora thinks she's gonna get action, but actually he's just selling the cruise thing, that was awkward in an uncomfortable way.
Yes.
I didn't believe that for a second, that Jamie Lee Curtis was excited for Tim Allen's character to do anything to her.
I wouldn't be excited for Tim Allen's character to be anything to me either. That just... Ugh.
But it's not something he can't do. His co-star on Home Improvement, they had amazing chemistry. I totally believe that they were this couple with kids, and then they would banter back and forth in a similar way that Luther and Nora did. So it's not that he can't do it, and Jamie Lee Curtis is a great actress, so it's not like she can't do it.
They must just not like each other.
Something about when this movie came all together did not work. Something broke down, and it's a darn shame, because I knew about this movie because a lot of YouTubers have talked about it because it has such low ratings and it's kind of insane. But I never knew about the book until earlier this year, and I was like, oh my goodness, this has a book? But at the time it was a New York Times bestseller, and it's very good, and it does not deserve the fate that it got because a movie kinda ruined it.
Yeah, only kinda though.
Only kinda. Just enough.
Just enough.
But yeah, if you love bad movies, you'll like 50 minutes of this, and the 45 minutes after aren't bad, they're boring, and no one likes boring, so take that as you will, but the book is totally worth the read. This actually put me in the Christmas mood. The book put me in a Christmas mood. The first book we read this month did not put me in a Christmas mood, and this third book didn't either, but that's because murder.
Murder!
So it was really nice to have this Christmassy book. I've never read a book and been like, this feels like Christmas, but this book totally did it, and I highly recommend. And I also kind of recommend watching the movie after reading the book, so you can appreciate the book more, and also the movie's just enough of the book to kind of remind you of all the good points of the book. But it's definitely not one you need to put in your rotation.
No.
So this will be probably shorter ones, but it's such a good book, and it's a pretty bad movie.
Yes.
So thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. If you would like to support us further, you can find us on both Twitter and Instagram at EWM_book club. We post fun book content, and you might get a sneak peek of what is coming up before we even announce it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Lizzie Sawyer.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time.